Wells Fargo Center as the Flyers fall in defeat once again of the Buffalo Sabres. Swept by the Sabres this season. That hurts.
Yeah, that's not
That hurts.
optimal by any sense of the imagination. That would say, again, we've talked about it, this year, catching teams at the wrong time. This is a Sabres team that's a lot better right now than they were, for the first half of the season. But the Flyers, again, with the injuries that they have, I guess, I don't know, just some lack of spirit in these two games, I think, across the board from the team as a whole. There are individuals that kind of shown there, but a lot of this team's heart and soul is injured right now. So,
yeah.
It is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, the first game against Buffalo was all the way back on January 22nd. Flyers are mired in that 13-game losing skid at the time. They lost 6-3 in Buffalo. And then obviously these two games last night and tonight, 4-3 final last night, 5-3 final tonight against the Sabres. Flyers return their attention north of the border, where they'll travel to Toronto tomorrow to take on the Leafs Tuesday night. And then Thursday, they'll be in Montreal to take on the Canadiens and return here a week from today at 4 o'clock against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then a couple more road games in Chicago and Winnipeg. And then 12 days from now, Ottawa here at Wells Fargo Center will wrap up the 2021-22 season. But in this game, the Flyers, it wasn't as if they didn't have opportunities to score. I mean, they had some good opportunities to score. Dustin Tokarski with, 38 saves on 40 Flyer shots?
Yeah, I mean, they got pucks to the net.
33 saves on 35.
Yeah, I mean, they got pucks to the net overall. They had a pretty good shot margin in the first period, and, after that, there's a little less to be desired. You come back out for a third period, down by 2 goals, you don't expect to get outshot to the extent that they did. A lot of times that's when you go out and shoot a team 18-5 or something like that. But you got to give Buffalo a little bit of credit. They were able to keep the Flyers to the perimeter for the most part. The grade A scoring chances were minimal. The one thing that I did kind of look at there, especially in that, the extra attacker at the end. I mean, it just feels like the Flyers are missing a bit of a killer instinct on the man-up situations, whether it's power play or the extra attacker.
Yeah.
They just you watch what Buffalo did these 2 games. East-west passing, boom, 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 and it just happens. It seems like every time the Flyers connect with a pass in those situations, they stop and think about it for a split second. And in the NHL, that gives the opponent all the time the need to adjust and keep things to the perimeter. And that just seems to me that it'll be something this team needs to add before next year, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I've rarely seen games this year the Flyers have been involved in where the opponent had an expected goals model of 5.6 goals per game, and the Flyers had 4.5. That's a high-scoring game. I mean, you look at they buzzed around the net all night, but you're right, though. Sometimes what that doesn't show, it shows where the scoring chances came from, but sometimes you don't have time to gather the puck on your stick. You got to, as soon as it's there, you got to get it off your stick and get it on net. And that's what you saw Buffalo do.
And scoring chances with this team is strange, and it's the same way with, I guess, a lot of teams around the NHL right now. Is that you see a breakaway and all that, and you're not surprised necessarily when they don't convert it. The kind of the running gag with the Noah Cates goal is, thank goodness it wasn't a penalty shot.
Yeah, they've converted 5% on penalty shots and shootouts this year.
They can't score on them. So it is a little bit of a strange thing in terms of what scoring chances turn out to be right now in this league. But again, there were glimpses in that game of trying to get some things together, but for whatever reason, nothing caught.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. We know that they are heavily depleted right now. They were depleted before the game where they lost 6 players.
Right.
So that's not lost on us, and we understand that. There's a lot of guys just cutting their teeth for the first time in the NHL right now. Coach brought up at the end of the broadcast, though. He thought it looked like the Flyers had less energy than Buffalo.
It did, and again, I don't know if that is a factor of, I don't know if there's a difference in this situation between, playing at home first versus on the road, or vice versa. I think I can see some extent that when you're in that situation, you're already a little bit road weary. You come back home, you get in late, you're still a little home weary. Whereas the Sabres at least were at home, and then even though they're going to be weary going on the road, that goes hand in hand. I don't know if there's any difference there or not. You did have, I guess, perhaps a few more guys in the Flyers side of things that are new to these back-to-backs with travel. You get plenty of back-to-backs in the college game, but they don't travel. They're all in one place.
Yeah, you go to Michigan to play more than one game.
Yeah, so that could be part of it. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's an odd time for a game. It's the 5 p.m. starts earlier than what the guys are used to. It could have been any number of things that went into it, but I think just in terms of the team that was clicking better today was the Buffalo Sabres, and maybe they had the same amount of energy, and the Flyers just didn't execute as well with that level of energy as the Sabres did. There could be some of that.
I see Jordan Hall put out this tweet that dating back to last season, the Flyers have now lost their last 5 meetings to the Sabres. 5-0. Haven't gone one to overtime either, while being outscored 26-13. And I imagine that first win or first loss for the Flyers against the Sabres of that 5 straight now was when the Sabres broke their 18-game winless skid.
Yes. Yeah, right? That would be right. Yeah. That's and again, it's when something like that happens, everybody looks at it. How could you possibly lose to that team? Well, I mean, they're going to break against somebody. Yeah. And
not going to have an inner squad.
Right. Night in, night out. I mean, any team in this league generally can beat any other team unless you're Arizona and you're giving up 9 all the time. I don't know.
They've actually scored 9 too, though.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Beat Detroit 9-2.
So it can go either way on any given night. Again, this was just a night where the Flyers again weren't clicking. There was just something missing there in terms of the connection overall, and again they're in the situation that they're in, just because of a couple of unfortunate reads that went against them. Now, granted, they got what could easily be called a couple of unfortunate goals the other way against Buffalo. Like the Kevin Hayes goal, that was just a excuse me puck that barely reached the back of the net. So I guess it does go both ways. But it's again another thing that maybe some of these Flyers don't have a ton of experience with that they'll be able to work on here coming out of this season.
So in the game, and Felix Sandstrom's now 3rd NHL start, he makes 36 saves on, well, I guess it was 35 saves on 39 shots. The 40th was into the empty net. And, Coatsy mentioned at the end of the broadcast, he didn't like 2 of the goals of the first 3. And, going back and looking at that first goal, he's moving from his right to his left on that one-time shot. It looks like he just doesn't get far enough over, and they beat him just right above the pad on that glove side a couple of times. But, I mean, he's made some really good saves. He made an excellent save on a point-blank opportunity in the third period on a low-to-high play. He's made some really good saves, but he's got some more refinement to his game. Who knows how much we see him down the stretch? I imagine we're not going to see Carter again because, at this point, where's the upside in that? And you do have to make a decision on Sandstrom because he is a Group 6 unrestricted free agent. So you got to figure out. I mean, he's a guy they drafted, I think, all the way back in 2015, I want to say. He's been in the organization for many years, and it's got to figure out, does he have a future here in North America at this point? Because it doesn't make much sense to just – I mean, if he's going to be your starter with the Phantoms, you bring him back, and if you believe he's going to make it to the NHL and be a consistent, able NHL backup or player. But if not, then you may be time to move on. Maybe he goes back to Europe.
Yeah, I mean, he has some control over what ends up happening, right?
Yeah.
He has a say in the proceedings at this point. I guess it depends on where he wants his future to go from this point. Does he still want to be a starter in the NHL? Does he want to be a backup in the NHL? Does he want to, continue to chase that, or does he want to go back home at this point? You can certainly make an argument for anything. You can go home. You can go back to Sweden and make a very good living playing there.
And he sees, all the other goalies with Ursan, Ustimenko, and then obviously, Fedotov if they're able to get him over, and even down the line, Kolosov.
Right. So, I suppose that a lot of it depends on what he wants to do. Just looking at some of the goals that we were talking about a moment ago. I mean, the first goal almost to me looks like he gets a late read on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a flyer there. It might have screened him just a little bit, but like right before the shot that generated the goal, the puck went over to Olsen, and Sandstrom's right there. Like he played that one perfectly. But the second one that goes to Olsen, again, he's slow to get over there for whatever reason. I don't know if he realized he was still there or what the deal was. I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you that he wants to get on that a little bit quicker.
No doubt about it. Let's take a quick timeout here on the postgame show. Flyers fall to the Sabres by a final score of 5-3. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Wells Fargo Center. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. Postgame. Should we hit the lottery simulator one more
You and I
time?
both did it at the same time without even saying anything to each other.
Well, you just did. You got Flyers number 2,
Yeah.
Arizona number 1,
I just won.
and I just did it, and I got the Flyers with the first overall pick. New Jersey again with 2, Arizona, Montreal, and Seattle.
We talked the league into letting us run the lottery.
Let me hit it again. It happens 2 times in a row.
Until it comes up.
Yeah, that time they stayed at 5, and Seattle went to number 1 and Buffalo number 2.
This is the kind of stuff.
Oh, there they are again.
This is the kind of stuff that triggers problem gambling.
I know. I'll go in a rabbit hole with that stupid thing tonight and be like, okay, let's run it 100 times.
Oh, my God.
And oddly enough, like it would be 9.7 times out of 100. That's probably when it would show up, right? You look at this Buffalo team, like they got some nice pieces here. You look at on D, Owen Power coming in from Michigan. Matthias Samuelsson, then Rasmus Dahlin, who's really kind of developed. He made a Nick Lidstrom type play. He was compared to Lidstrom, obviously, because of the countryman and skill set, which was probably unfair. But he played 24 minutes tonight, and there was a hard dump in, and he knocked it out of the air with his stick. That'll drive it forward crazy. They got some nice pieces on that blue line, Yoki Haru. And then you look up, up front too, they got some pieces there. They need some more high-end talent probably. And they thought they had that in Jack Eichel, but obviously things went sour. They had Dylan Cousins and you have Peyton Krebs, both young players, but this team has got some pieces. Tage Thompson's having a really good year, obviously. Another 2 goals for him tonight. And, big 6'7" forward that can fill it up. You'll take some of that action.
They have, at the moment, the potential of 3 first-round picks.
Is that right?
This year. They have 2 picks coming their way, one from Florida and one from Vegas, that are both top 10 protected.
Okay.
The Florida one, you don't have to worry about that. The Vegas one, I doubt you have to worry about. No, you don't have to worry about that, do you?
Vegas?
Yeah.
They might not make the playoffs.
Would it be top 10? I guess it would depend on when the lottery went from that.
Yeah, they wouldn't probably where they're going to finish. They wouldn't be able to be in the lottery.
So they got a lot of pieces coming their way too. To me, the question with this franchise is going to be whether or not they are able to spend the cap. This is not a franchise that's owned by a huge corporation or anything. They have bills and all that, but the question is, to me, whether they can, if they have the money to bring in a couple more pieces, then they're going to be pretty scary pretty quick.
Yeah.
If they are going to rely on developing what they've got to be their stars, then it's going to be a little bit longer.
So Tage Thompson his first games in the NHL were all the way back in the 17-18 season. Actually, for St. Louis, he played 41 games. And in his first 145 games, he had 18 goals. In this season, in 73 games, he's now got 34 goals.
For a bad team.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing the Flyers need some of their young guys. They need some people to turn that corner. Whether it's
that's bananas.
Joel Farabee that does it, or Morgan Frost, or even a little bit older guys like Travis Konecny. They need one of these forwards that they've picked up here in the last 5 years to do something like that. That is going to be a catalyst for the Sabres. And so far, the Flyers haven't seen that kind of return on any of their forward picks in the last 5 years to this point.
He's got 36 goals now.
Yeah. So,
again,
it's just a matter of how the players develop, I suppose. And this has been a very funky couple of years for developing players. But there's guys that are figuring it out, and I think that is something that is also a wild card for this franchise. Which one of these young players which one of these guys are going to step up and be the centerpieces for the future?
Yeah. Joel Farabee is going to have to be a really important piece moving forward. But, this summer is going to determine a lot of that.
Yeah.
And, how Chuck Fletcher, if he decides to make a big, dare I say, blockbuster hockey trade where you're dealing multiple players and big names, and big names on the move, then you're hoping to gain a centerpiece. If you do that, and what are you losing? That's what you got to figure out.
Right, and you have to. This is still in the era where it's got to be money in, money out. This is flat cap right now. Flyers have some cap space. They have some RFAs to sign, but they're going to have some cap space. But again, it's almost like you've got to find a partner that needs. Also needs a refresher trade. Or you get a 3-way deal going or something like that. Like you've got to, if you're going to decide to move out some major money to bring in some other guys, then you have to find. It's tough to find the right fit. And again, a lot of times you're seeing some of these teams like Seattle and Arizona come in as like the third party broker there to absorb some of the salary that needs to be absorbed. But it's difficult to do. It certainly isn't like it was in the 90s when you could just wheel and deal, and the trade that brought in Leclerc and Desjardins and for Recchi, Gilbert Gillon, who I don't think was much of a centerpiece there, but it's hard to make deals like that these days with the cap being where it is. It's just a matter of finding the right partner, I suppose.
Yeah, and the cap going to go up by $1 million this year. And I've been asked about this quite a bit lately. It'll be $1 million this year and $1 million for the next 2 years minimum, unless they far exceed HRR. But the projection is this year, next year, and the year after, it will only increase by $1 million, and that's when the escrow will be paid back. In essence, the owners get paid back for the players not cutting the HR in half during the pandemic, and then it'll be normal escalation based on 50% of whatever hockey-related revenue is.
Right. And now you've got, the one thing that they do have that might speed it up a little bit is the new national TV deal in the United States. Mm-hmm. That had a lot more money in it. The league is moving into partnerships with sports books and things of that nature. That's a new revenue stream. So you don't know what all is coming down the pike there, but hopefully, for the sake of the game in general, not just the Flyers, that soon you're going to have a situation where you can have the cap going up year to year, and new space coming in, and some guys coming in to change things up without being constricted by the cap.
And the other part of it too is, you look at the NBA, they did this play-in thing.
Yeah.
And you know why they did that. They did that to get more markets involved, make the games down the stretch mean more for more teams. And like in the NBA, like an 8 seed or a 7 seed, it's just getting led to slaughter.
Yeah.
The NHL, that's not the case, which it means, like, could you imagine this year the top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference and the 7-8 team had to do a play-in?
Yeah, I mean,
being that far out,
or even the 8-9 or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, half of the Eastern Conference has been out of the playoff race for a month.
Yeah.
If that 9th spot was opened up as a play-in, I mean, yeah, that would have made things a lot more interesting for a lot of teams. I don't know how many games that NBA thing was too, but you're adding, 3 games
nationally televised too,
to the revenue there.
Yeah.
So there's that to be, and people just say, oh yeah, just go ahead and do it. Well, you do anything like that, it has to be
collectively bargained.
Yeah, it has to be negotiated in.
Yeah, I'm sure the TV partners, would be for it because it's more for them as well. And then the other part of it is, Gary Bettman has been staunch against expanding the playoff. He really didn't even want to do it in the bubble.
Right. Yeah, they had to do that to kind of even the playing field there because you had, so many teams that were within range when things came to a halt that you couldn't just say, okay, these guys are out. You had to go down there, and the reason they went to where they did was there was a cliff there, so to speak. There was a spot that once you got past, I believe it was the 12th team in the West, that there was no more dispute. So that's why it went as big as it did.
Yeah, and it was funny, though, because New York ended up in and Montreal ended up in. Mm-hmm. And those markets mean something, for sure.
Absolutely.
And so,
especially in August.
Yeah. Nothing says playoff hockey in August like that. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's thank a few people before we get out of here. Let's start with our in-studio engineer. He's the best in the business. It is Pat Egan. Pat, who was on highlights tonight? The Easter Bunny on highlights tonight. Betsy Deming was our on-site engineer. I wasn't expecting that. For Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, Brian Smith, I'm Jason Martinez. You've been listening to Philadelphia Flyers Hockey, a 5-3 loss to the Sabres on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Good night, everybody.